keep calling it comfort, but your body is calling it familiar. And that mistake is why you can feel safest in places that are quietly destroying you. Quick thing before I get surgical with this. We are building toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps this channel reach people who actually want psychology with teeth. And if this hits a nerve, hit like too. It tells the algorithm this is worth distributing. Okay, if you have ever gone back to a person you swore you were done with, or stayed in a job that made you smaller, or felt weirdly calm inside chaos but anxious inside peace, you have already met this mechanism. This is not a character flaw. It is not you being weak. It is your nervous system running a very old algorithm. It treats predictability like protection. Here is what is actually happening. Your brain is not built to optimize happiness. It is built to reduce surprise. Because for most of human history, surprise meant injury. That single priority quietly rearranges your entire life, and most people never connect the dots, so they keep trying to think their way out of a problem that is being run by their physiology. Let me show you the first hidden layer, because this is where the confusion starts. Familiarity is not a feeling, it is a prediction. When something is familiar, your brain can simulate the next few seconds of it with low effort. And that low effort gets interpreted as safe because the nervous system is allergic to uncertainty. There is research on predictive processing that basically frames the brain as a prediction machine. It is constantly trying to minimize prediction error, meaning the gap between what it expects and what actually happens. Now notice the trap. A predictable threat can produce less prediction error than an unpredictable kindness. So your body can relax around the threat. Not because it likes pain, but because it hates not knowing. Think about this for a second. If you grew up with a parent who was emotionally volatile, you learned the micro patterns. The sound of the footsteps, the way a cabinet closed, the tempo of silence. You became a weather forecaster. That skill kept you safe back then. But as an adult, it means your nervous system can mistake volatility for a home climate. Calm can feel suspicious. A stable partner can feel off. Not boring, off. Because there are no cues to track and no job for your vigilance to do. And here is the part people miss. Your nervous system will often choose the environment it is competent in, not the environment it is healthy in. Let me say that again because it explains so much. It will choose competence over health. Familiar chaos is a game you know how to play. Peace is a game you have not learned, so peace can actually spike anxiety. Your body is not saying, "This is dangerous." It is saying, "I do not have a model for this." Now here is where it gets interesting. The signal your body uses for "I can predict this" is often interpreted subjectively as chemistry, as connection, as a spark. You meet someone and the conversation is intense, fast, slightly destabilizing. They are hot and cold. You feel activated. You call it attraction. But what you are feeling may be your nervous system recognizing a pattern it has survived before. Not love. Pattern recognition plus adrenaline. This is why some people equate calm affection with a lack of love. Their body does not register calm as intimacy. It registers calm as absence of stimulation, and the absence of stimulation feels like exposure, like waiting for something to happen. If you have ever said, "It is too good to be true," and then you sabotaged it, I want you to see the logic. You were not trying to ruin your life. You were trying to return to a set point your body considers manageable. Okay, second layer. This one is more technical, but it will change how you interpret your own reactions. Your nervous system does not just store memories as stories, it stores them as state. This is the difference between explicit memory and implicit memory. Explicit memory is what you can narrate. Implicit memory is what your body does without asking you. So you can consciously know this person is kind and still feel a tightening in your chest when they are kind, because your body has learned an association. Closeness precedes pain, or attention precedes control, or gifts precede debt. That association is not a thought, it is a reflex. The mechanism behind this is classical conditioning plus interoception. Interoception is your ability to sense internal signals: heart rate, breath, gut tension. Your brain uses those signals as evidence. So when a new situation produces a body sensation that matches an old situation, your brain tags it as the same category, and even if the facts are different. That is why I know better does not fix it. Knowledge lives in cortex. Safety lives in brainstem and limbic circuitry. You can talk to yourself all day. Meanwhile, your vagus nerve is making a decision without you, and people misread that decision constantly. They think, my intuition is telling me something is wrong. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is your nervous system confusing unfamiliar with unsafe. Notice the pattern here. Familiar equals predictable. Predictable equals controllable. Controllable equals survivable. That is the emotional math. It is not moral, it is computational. Let me make it painfully concrete. Imagine you are offered a new job. It pays more. The team seems respectful. The role is aligned with what you actually want, but you feel dread, not regular nervousness. Dread. So you talk yourself out of it. Maybe it is not stable. Maybe I will fail. Maybe the boss will turn out to be weird. You manufacture risk to justify the sensation. What happened? Your body felt the loss of a known identity, even if that identity was miserable. The current job might be draining, but you know exactly how to be drained there. The new job requires a new nervous system pattern, new social rules, new evaluation criteria, new rhythms. Your system flags that as threat because it cannot forecast it yet. Now stay with me, because this next part recontextualizes everything. People assume the nervous system is trying to keep you safe. More accurately, it is trying to keep you the same. Because the fastest proxy for safety is stability. And the fastest proxy for stability is repetition. That is why people return to the same relationship dynamic with different faces. The repetition is not accidental, it is homeostasis. And the tool your nervous system uses for homeostasis is what I call state matching. You seek environments that match your baseline internal state because it reduces friction. If your baseline is mild anxiety, you will feel oddly comfortable around mildly chaotic people. If your baseline is numbness, you may seek intense stimulation just to feel normal. If your baseline is shame, you may be drawn to relationships where you have to earn basic respect, because that matches your internal expectation. This is not destiny. It is a calibration issue. Third layer, and this one is the most uncomfortable. Familiarity can be chemically rewarding even when it is bad for you. Dopamine is not a pleasure chemical. It is a learning and salience chemical. It spikes when something is relevant, when something demands attention, when something is uncertain but potentially rewarding. Intermittent reinforcement is especially powerful. This is why slot machines work, and it is why hot-cold relationships create obsession. When affection is predictable, your dopamine system settles. When affection is inconsistent, dopamine keeps firing because your brain keeps updating predictions. You are literally being trained by variance. So the nervous system is not just confusing familiarity with safety. It can confuse volatility with aliveness. Let me show you how that plays out. Someone texts you back instantly for 3 days. Then they disappear for 2. Your body activates. You check your phone. You replay conversations. You feel pulled. When they return, you feel relief, and that relief gets paired with them. Your brain learns. This person resolves the tension they create. That is a closed loop. It is self-reinforcing. And because it is familiar, it feels safe. It feels like you know what to do. Chase, wait, win, exhale. The cycle itself becomes the comfort, even if it is killing your sleep and self-respect. Now here is the twist that most people do not hear in typical psychology content. Trauma is not only about what happened, it is about what your nervous system learned to predict. If your system learned that love comes with a side of fear, then fear becomes part of the love schema. Not conceptually, physiologically. So when love arrives without fear, and it does not fully register as love, it registers as incomplete information. That is why some people say they are nice, but something is missing. What is missing is the threat signal that used to accompany bonding. Your body is asking, where is the cost? Because in your history, connection had a price. Okay. Midpoint, and I want to flip the whole thing. The problem is not that your nervous system is stupid. The problem is that it is loyal. It is loyal to the world that shaped it. And loyalty to the past can look like self-sabotage in the present. So the real question becomes, how do you teach your nervous system the difference between familiar and safe without gaslighting yourself? Because some people hear this and go, so I should ignore my gut. No, that is reckless. Your gut is sometimes accurate, but you need a way to audit it. Here is the framework I use. 3 signals: novelty, ambiguity, and constraint. Novelty is simply newness. Ambiguity is unclear meaning. Constraint is loss of choice. Unfamiliar, healthy situations contain novelty and ambiguity, but they do not contain constraint. You can leave. You can say no. You can slow down. There is room. Unfamiliar, unsafe situations contain novelty and ambiguity plus constraint. You feel pushed, rushed, cornered, like your no will be punished. Like there is an invisible contract being written. Now apply this to your body sensations. When your nervous system lights up, ask, is this activation responding to novelty or to constraint? Because the body often reacts the same way to both at first. Elevated heart rate, vigilance, scanning. But the meaning is different. And here is the practical piece that sounds small but changes everything. Safety is not the absence of activation. Safety is the presence of options. That is not a motivational quote. That is a nervous system principle. When your system can perceive choices, the threat circuitry calms. When choices are removed, threat escalates, even if the environment looks calm from the outside. So if you want to retrain the confusion, you stop chasing calm and you start training options. Let me show you what that means in real life. If you are dating someone stable and you feel that weird itch to create drama, do not moralize it. Do not call yourself broken. Name it. Your nervous system is searching for the old map. Then you add options deliberately. You slow the pace. You take space after intimacy. You keep your routines. You do not merge too fast. You prove to your body repeatedly that closeness does not equal captivity. If you are leaving a toxic job and you feel panic about the new one, you do not try to eliminate panic. You build controllability. You ask questions. You define success metrics with your manager. You set a check-in schedule. You create a ramp. You reduce ambiguity, because ambiguity is what your nervous system calls danger. Now watch what happens when you do this consistently. Your body starts updating its predictive model. That is the only real path, not insight alone. Prediction updates through repeated evidence, and that brings me to the synthesis, the pattern behind the patterns. Your nervous system runs on prediction, not truth. It does not ask, is this good for me? It asks, what usually happens next? And then it prepares you for that. So when you confuse familiarity with safety, what you are actually doing is outsourcing your future to your past. You are letting yesterday's statistics define today's choices. The antidote is not to force yourself into discomfort like some toughness ritual. The antidote is to create what I call graduated unfamiliarity. You introduce new patterns in doses small enough that your system can metabolize them, but consistent enough that the model updates. It looks like this. Choose one area where you repeatedly pick familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. Just one. Then you design a tiny experiment where the stakes are low, but the pattern is different. If your pattern is over-explaining to avoid conflict, the experiment is one sentence. No, that does not work for me. Then you stop. You feel the activation. You do not patch it with 10 paragraphs. You let your body learn that the world does not end when you do not perform for safety. If your pattern is choosing emotionally unavailable people, the experiment is not date the perfect person. The experiment is to stay present with someone consistent for long enough to notice the boredom anxiety and to label it accurately. That is withdrawal from chaos, not lack of compatibility. If your pattern is procrastination that keeps you in a familiar identity, the experiment is not to overhaul your life. It is to complete one small action while your body is activated and to stay with the sensation without obeying it. That is how you teach your nervous system that activation is not an emergency. Notice what I am doing here. I am not telling you to trust yourself in a vague way. I am telling you to train your prediction engine with better data. Because safety is not a belief. It is a learned probability. And one more nuance, because this is where intelligent people get trapped. You can intellectually agree with all of this and still choose familiarity. Why? Because familiarity also protects your identity. If you change the pattern, you have to change the story of who you are. And that is a deeper threat than people admit. If you grew up being the responsible one, peace feels like irresponsibility. If you grew up being the fixer, a healthy partner makes you feel useless. If you built your entire worth around endurance, then a life that does not require endurance can feel like emptiness. So sometimes what you call anxiety is actually grief. Grief for the self you had to be to survive. And your nervous system will cling to familiar environments because they validate that old self. See, I still need my armor. But you do not heal by throwing away armor. You heal by noticing you are wearing it in a room that is no longer on fire. So here is the closing thought I want to leave in your head, and I want you to actually test it this week. The question is not, why do I keep choosing what hurts? The better question is, what kind of hurt feels predictable enough for my body to relax? When you can answer that honestly, you stop demonizing yourself. You start decoding yourself. And once you can decode the pattern, you can interrupt it. If this changed how you interpret your own gut feelings, I would love to hear what pattern you recognized in the comments. And the next time your body calls something safe, pause and ask, is this safety? Or is this just the past wearing a comfortable disguise?